Welcome to the Bad Dating Podcast. I'm your host, Michael James. I know bad dating, so let's talk about it. So, a controversial topic: who should lead? Who should pursue? Who is the prize? That's what we're going to be talking about today on Bad Dating Podcast. But before we do, please follow us on socials: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, especially at Bad Dating Podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. It helps with the algorithms and lets me know that you're interested, especially if you want to have dialogue on the topic. So, leading in dating is now a big topic, and a lot of people have talked about it. I know I've had these sorts of discussions when it comes to dating, talking, interacting with someone. So I thought I'd talk about it here. And I'm not trying to cause controversy, but we are going to talk about and get into it right now. So, this all comes back to who should lead. Old school versus new school. You have the old school way of thinking when it comes to, hey, the men should lead. And that can come back to a myriad of reasons, and we'll touch on that later in the podcast. Versus the new school who says, hey, we're equals, we can both lead, the woman can lead, or we can communicate. So, how did you get the old school? The old school mentality when it comes to who should lead comes from people were in a very different situation back then. So when women couldn't vote, when women had less opportunities and were kind of considered property way back when, to couldn't vote, to kind of transitioning to women's rights actually becoming at the forefront. Before then, a male would have to go get permission to talk to the father, ask, do a lot of things, not just ask, but like do a lot more things when it comes to trying to make an effort. So if back when the day, chivalry, especially when you look into that old school term, if a woman couldn't own property or couldn't have money or couldn't leave the house without a male's accompaniment, things looked a little different. So that's why a guy would have to ask and would have to do these things. And then a woman could, before they could have a bank account, or when they, again, life was different way back when. That's why it's called the old school. So what's the new school? The new school is from women's rights and women empowerment, from when it comes to, hey, I want to make sure that a woman can do anything a man can do. And so, especially when I was born out of a little bit more of the feminist movement in the 70s, and that has only progressed since then. So, why does the new school exist? Well, the old school was old, is the best way to say that. When you were oppressing people, that is not a great system. If you're on top, yes, but for everyone else, it wasn't. So, yes, women wanted more options, more rights, and that makes sense. I mean, you couldn't go back to the way, well, we're not going to jump into politics, but we shouldn't want to go back in totality to the way things were. So this also still plays out, not just for time wise, also plays out in socially, culturally, and religiously. Depending on your belief structure or the person you're dealing with's belief structure, that does play a lot into, hey, who should lead? Who should pursue? Who is the prize? And you should be aware of that. I'm a guy who is from California. I've been around a lot of Hispanic families, a lot of Asian families, a lot of white families, and I kind of understand a little bit of what it can take in general for certain social dynamics when it comes to, hey, I'm trying to talk to someone. So if I'm trying to date a Hispanic woman, a Mexican woman, what does that entail? Well, a lot of them come from the belief of a male should lead. That is just traditional Mexican culture, and that is still very prevalent today. And so you need to know that, because you can fight the system, but if you're trying to date someone, do you want to fight the system or do you want to date someone? And especially if you vibe and connect, again, it's just understanding the game that you're playing and just being real with that. It is a game. So you may have your beliefs and the other person may have their beliefs. And that's a big thing. These days, people don't want to compromise on their beliefs or work with people. People just want to say, this is what I want and just go with that. And I mean, that works for some people, but there used to be a little bit more compromise, surprisingly, back in the day when it comes to a lot of beliefs. And these days, not so much. But yeah, so understanding the social and the cultural aspects is important because that way you can easily do things that will win someone's heart. If you know that, like, hey, a lot of women who, from Mexican families may get told, hey, a guy needs to open your door. And so that was something that was always just said in some households, not every, but in some households, a guy should open the door. A guy should pick you up. A guy should pay. So if you know these things, you're not going to have as many, ideally, fights when it comes to seeing someone and just like that kind of social awkwardness. Because like, hey, you may be completely new school and you're on a date with someone who is very much old school in that regards. And speaking of which, I see, so on dating profiles, people will always say, I'm very much old school, and then very much not be old school. Ladies, if you're old school, you have to give the guy a chance to lead. That's just facts. I mean, I've had this happen so many times where it comes to simple things that people will say that they're old school and then literally try to be in charge or just do things. And it's just like, hey, I'm actually fine with new school methods, but I'm also fine with old school methods as well. But then there was just that confusion when it comes to, hey, if you want someone to lead, let them lead. If a guy asks you out, or whoever's leading, if they ask you out, answer the question. Hey, would you like to go out on Friday? Or for me, one of the things I like to do, I don't ask specific days because what that will do is cause like a whack-a-mole type game. Oh, I asked them for Friday. They're busy Friday. They're busy every Friday. And I don't know that. And I don't want to ask for Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Oh, Thursday is actually fine. I don't want to do that. I like to just put it on them and say, hey, when are you free? So that way they can say, hey, oh, well, I'm free on Thursday. And then I can say like, okay, you know what? I'll move some things. Hey, Thursday, would you like to do dinner? Would you like to go roller skating? Would you like to go see a movie? First off, movies are no, don't do those on a first date. Those aren't good because you miss the opportunity to talk to someone unless it is a movie that like really connects with you two. So like horror fans, yeah, I would say take the girl to go see a horror movie because then you guys can just talk and vibe out. But in general, don't do that. So back to who should lead. Oh man, actually going back to just making sure to answer the question, it gives someone a chance to succeed or fail. Sometimes people will say like, well, I didn't want to say yes because, well, where are you going to take me? To me, that sounds like you're more concerned with where you're going and not that you're going with me. That's just how I read it, because there's a lot of people who they'll say yes to the specific event. I can say, hey, do you want to go to this $100 steakhouse and get 9 out of 10 times a yes? Because, oh, that place sounds great and I've always wanted to go there, or that sounds amazing. And then have no further dates just because they were just there for the event. Versus, again, the person who's just trying to go for, we can go wherever because they want to spend time with me and I want to spend time with them. To me, oh my God, like that is the type of girl I'll take to wherever she wants to go to, just because if you're making the effort and you're not putting up walls or losing sight of the goal, is the goal is to date and to progress. Yes, please make sure you say yes and let the guy plan. I've had people try to counter the plan when it comes to, hey, we've talked a little bit. You like Italian food. I'm okay with Italian food, but I know some really good Italian places. So I did the research. Hey, how about this place at this time, I can make reservations, or just making reservations. And then what the person did was they suggested another Italian place that they wanted to go to, that's just like at the same time, and just like, okay, was there a problem with the place that I picked? And they're like, well, no, it's just wanted to go this place. This place is on my list. The problem with that is you're not letting someone lead. You can, if you want someone to lead, give them the ability to lead. Now, that doesn't just mean whoever is leading gets to do whatever they want, because I'm not with that. That's, first off, guy, girl, whoever's leading, and we'll touch into why I said guy, girl, whatever shortly, just because whoever leads, that's not carte blanche, but you have to give them the ability to lead until you find out, oh, maybe this person can't lead. So when it comes to who should lead, what plays into that? I just talked about social issues. I just talked about cultural, religious. For some people, depending on how devout they are in their religious beliefs, a lot of religions, surprisingly, or not surprisingly really, say the guy should lead. And that the woman was made from the man, and they espouse the beliefs of the woman is there to serve her man. And some women really do take that like very serious when it comes to the serving, and they're looking for someone who is worth following. Completely understandable. That's the reason why it's important to just know who you're trying to see and what their beliefs are. But does being a man mean I get to lead? If I'm dating someone who has those social, religious, or cultural beliefs, by default, they may just be inclined to go that way for the old school mentality. In reality, is that always the best? Not really. Just because, again, if you were never shown how to lead, if you do not know how to lead, don't lead. And that's not just guys, women, because honestly, anyone can lead. The newest new school method, I did that in air quotes for my listeners, of leading is not just, okay, well, it's 50-50, although it can be, and at some point, depending on what, it should be. Money does not mean you should lead. Being a male does not necessarily mean you should lead, because if you don't know how to lead, why would you want to lead? A lot of dumb people actually do want to lead, and they have no business wanting to be being in charge of anything. And yet, because they're just dumb enough to raise their hand, yep, I want to do it, we let them, and then everything goes to hell in a handbasket. If you do not know how to lead, you may not even realize you don't know how to lead. To the other person in the party, you want someone to lead. First, why not you? For some people, again, going back to the social, religious, whatever, and that's fine. But understand, if you do not want to lead, that means you have to let the other person lead. And that means you also need to be aware of what makes a poor leader and what you're not willing to stand for early on. Because I know tons of people who get into long-term relationships, potentially married, only to get divorced because they found they were with someone who really had no business leading, and they kind of just made excuses for it. I know it's very easy if someone's cute to give them the benefit of the doubt, or allow things to just say, oh, well, I just felt that I should do this because yada, yada, yada. And then you're going and you realize, oh man, this didn't work out all that hot. So leading takes understanding of the direction that you want to go. So you have that end goal. So for some people, it's marriage. For some people, it's a relationship. For some people, it's kids. For other people, it's just, hey, what are we doing tonight? Whatever you're doing, it's just, that's what you have to have a direction. And part of being a good leader is being able to acknowledge and communicate that direction to the other person in the party. And ideally, you get consensus that, like, yeah, that's where they want to go. Because sometimes some people who are not for leading or are not vocal when it comes to what they want may go along, but in the back of their head, they're just like, well, I never wanted a relationship. That's a problem if that's what you're going for. Or well, I wanted a relationship, but this guy was here and I'm going to engage with him. Although he's just saying he just wants it for just the night or the weekend or the trip or whatever, you're going to see yourself going down that road. And it's just like, well, you really should have just been direct and honest with yourself and then with the other person. Like, nah, yeah, you're cute. I'm glad that you're interested, but I can do better. And that's the thing is understanding and being willing to put that foot down and just say like, no, why am I going to settle? And unfortunately, a lot of women will think settling is, and I say women just because I've only dated women. So a lot of people will think settling means is the same as compromising, and then they will refuse to do that. Settling is, hey, I want to go to Italy, but my money only allows me to go to New Mexico. So I go to New Mexico and I'm not happy. That's settling. Compromising is, hey, I want to go to Italy. I don't have the money to go fully as what I'd like this year. I can go next year, but because I don't want to just do nothing, what I will do is, hey, maybe I'll go to New York. Maybe I'll go to Los Angeles. Or maybe I'm going to work so I can make sure, like, right, if I'm doing everything I'm doing right now, I can't get to Italy. So maybe I need to do more. And then taking the time to make that sort of effort to do more. So it's that sort of thought of how to accomplish your goals, which is a key part of leadership. Again, so is communication and then just being emotionally mature enough to handle leadership. Yes, it's very easy to be a leader in a vacuum or just like, hey, you do this every day if you're by yourself, or it's just like, I want to use the restroom. I'm going to get up, I'm going to go out, I'm going to use the restroom, I'm going to wash my hands, and I get to decide. And I don't have to accommodate or think about anyone else's feelings when it comes to what I want to do. And that's leading yourself, and that's fine. But then when it comes to leading someone else, that's where a lot of people actually don't have the maturity to be able to handle that. Where it's, hey, I like to take someone to a restaurant that they're going to be a fan of or that they are open to. I know all the things that I like, and I can easily, hey, cool, hey, I'll pick you up and go through the course of dating someone and only do the things that I want to do, and end up in a situation where it's just like, yeah, he was self-centered. He never even considered what I wanted, and like, I'm allergic to this, I don't like this, or whatever. So yeah, sometimes just taking the time to talk to someone and communicate and like kind of get feedback and being open to getting feedback. A lot of people can't handle it, and just like, you're setting yourself up to fail as a leader if you can't even just like be comfortable with hearing back from the person you're trying to work with. And then sometimes, story time. I dated a Mexican woman who, she was old school in that regards of like, hey, she has the expectations and stuff. And so, but what threw me off was when we were at a restaurant for the first time, she was just like, well, you can order. And at a restaurant that I've never been to and I've never eaten with her. So like, I was like wildly uncomfortable with ordering for someone who's just like, I don't even know, like, are you allergic? Are you lactose intolerant, gluten free, whatever? Like, yeah, like, you can pick, like, and this is one of the reasons why I'm not the biggest proponent of certain old school aspects, because it doesn't really make sense. It's just like, you should pick your food. Little kids pick their food when they're at a restaurant. Well, I mean, depends. Some people raise their kids and they have expensive tastes, but just like, hey, from the kids menu, what would you like? Oh, I want chicken nuggets. Okay, cool. You can have chicken nuggets. Oh, what do you want? A burger? Yep. You can have a burger. For an adult, you know, if you want the garlic whatever, or if you know that if you are very much, oh, I hate seafood, you should at least voice that opinion, especially like spicy. I love spicy. And I've definitely dated people who did not feel that same way. And for me, the things that I would consider as not spicy would be way too much from that for them. So that's one of the reasons why, yeah, that situation definitely didn't work out. But this is when it comes back to who should lead, who should pursue, and who is the prize. Whoever's the prize is, I see, I don't even like that term, who's the prize, because everyone should feel like they're the prize. If you have some self-esteem, you should believe in yourself and be like, hey, I'm worth it. So for me, like I said, I like to mix new school and old school, and I'm definitely comfortable adapting. I So love languages are a big thing on dating apps now, and people are like, oh, what's one of your 5 love languages? So first off, I know if a girl says all 5 of them are love languages, that means she's difficult and can't indecisive, and it will be a whole host of headaches. That's just my opinion. That's not a fact, but that's my opinion because of who I've dealt with, who just said, like, most people will say like, hey, you can squeeze off 3, that's fine, but 5, it's just like, no, there are some things that, like, you should know. Hey, you like gifts, you like words of affirmation, and I always say, since people say love languages, I always say, like, what's your languages of hate? Because you know the things that set you off, that, like, he didn't give me this, or she didn't spend time with me, or these things that set you off. So, like, for me, for my love languages are acts of service and quality time. So my languages of hate are when someone does the opposite of that. So when the person who, and I've run into this a couple times, hey, it is Friday, we just started talking. Oh man, we're vibing. Hey, it's 3 o'clock. How about this? How about dinner 6, 7 o'clock? And they say, nope. Plan it out a week from now or 2 weeks from now, minimum. What? So the reason why I have an issue with that is, if you would rather sit at home and do nothing, then when you have free time and ability to go get seen and talk to me and spend time with me, like, that puts me off. That's why that's a language of hate for me, just because I'm like, you would just sit at home and do nothing instead of spend time with me. Sometimes people get way too wrapped up in plans and just like, yes, I can definitely make a plan, make reservations. I've done that. I have no problem doing that. But also, you should be flexible enough that, like, hey, if you're free, again, I get getting ready and wanting, but sometimes you're in a real relationship, not everything can be planned. And especially when it comes to online dating and stuff, like, you don't want, most people try to not overly commit off of having never met someone. So understanding that, this comes back to who should lead, who should pursue, and who's the prize. You can say you're the prize, but are you going to have someone wait for you for maybe a month, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months? Sometimes people are very hesitant. Like, I had someone who had unmatched with me just because they were like, oh, whoa, this is too fast, I don't want to meet. And I was like, okay, but, and they unmatched. I was like, cool, that's fine, I'm not missing out. Why? Because I am the prize, you're the prize, we're all the prize. It's fine. I don't want to waste my time pursuing someone who's like, well, guess what, you're still on the app, you're still talking to people. How many people else do you have scheduled, lined up? These days, people love to have little rosters of who they're dating, who they're talking to. So if I meet you on a dating app, I kind of just assume, hey, if I'm interested in you, someone else is interested in you too, at least one person. So if it's a race, cool, I'm not worried about them running their race. I'm just worried about me doing my thing. But I'm also just not going to put up with nonsense where it's, hey, if you can't answer the question when it comes to, hey, when are you free? Would you like to go out? How about Friday at 6? Friday at 7. What kind of food do you like? If you can't answer like these basic things that allow someone to just take the ball and plan, and they just, hey, guess what? You just got reservations sent to you for a week out. Why would I base my decision on not dating or dating on like just an idealized version? And unfortunately, that's what dating apps and can kind of become. It's just like, oh, okay, cool. If you have not met someone, you don't really owe them much except general respect. So that's why I'm not for waiting and building that time out, because it's like, yeah, who should pursue? Hey, if I'm going to pursue, I'm going to make effort. But if I catch you that you're not making effort, ooh, my effort will just drop off a cliff. And you, because why am I going to put myself out there? Now, if that's you, where it's just like, again, not everyone has that as a love language when it comes to acts of service or quality time. But that's why you should talk to someone and get to know. And that communication aspect comes back to the maturity and the leadership. And that only really comes through experience. And maybe if you don't have the experience, maybe learning from having seen that from someone else. So for me, I always say like, hey, I'm a romantic. I've surprised people with flowers, trips. You can do nice, lovely things, or just do things that like are important. Hey, they said something 2 months ago that I kept in the back of my head, and then surprised them with it. And they kind of just made an offhand comment, and boom, it's coming back to them, and they're smiling, they're happy. For me, why is that in my repertoire? Because I saw that from my dad. And again, whatever your dynamics are from how you were raised, it doesn't necessarily impact what you're going to do. It just means I'm mirroring that. Some people see things that happen when they grew up and they're like, I'm never going to do that. I'm going to do better. And that's great too, because not everyone had that opportunity, but you can make the choice now. You can decide, hey, here are the things that like I didn't like that I saw, or here are the things that like in dating now, oh man, I don't like certain aspects of dating, or I don't like certain aspects of this. People unfortunately take the wrong lessons from dating, especially when it doesn't work out. I've heard from women who they were great. They did full effort for a guy for 5 years, and he wasted their time by cheating and doing all this other nonsense. And then they will admit that they no longer do a million of these things because the guy wasted their time. Guys will do this too, especially if they get taken advantage of by a woman who's like, oh, she was just out for him to spend money on her, for him to take her places, or for him to buy her drinks. That's also one of the reasons why typically for first dates or first meets, I actually try to avoid drinks, because some people use that as a crutch, or some people use that as, hey, I have no real intentions of spending time with you for you. I just like to drink, so I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do it on your dime. And so like that's in my history, but I don't let that be the defining factor in how I interact with people from here on out. So knowing that, you have to make decisions as to what's your goal. And this comes back to like, well, what's the end destination? Ladies, fellas, if you're trying to lead, because again, it doesn't come to money, because that's a trap. There's tons of people who are rich who fell ass backwards into money, or came from money, or just got lucky, and they still have no idea on how to lead because they're not good leaders. Just because, like, or you have a impressive job title, but what no one knows is the fact that, hey, someone coached you into that job. Your dad, your mom, your cousins, whoever, someone got you into that position, and you don't have that sort of leadership material within you on your own. So that's why I'm not a big fan of money. I've dated women who have had way more money, like Yeah, they're doing well for themselves. And that was no shame in my game, because it's just like, hey, I'm still confident in myself and my beliefs and what I bring to the table. And that's why if you lead with money, that's all you have. So if you lose money, they're gone. And yeah, that's what you're there for. And hopefully they don't make money, because then they're out too. So that's why if I'm leading with my personality, with my charm, and what I bring to the table as a person, like the true definition of leadership characteristics, that's what I bring, and that's there no matter what. So, and yeah, dated broke girls too. And it's like, okay, cool, she's unemployed, but as long as you're responsible for yourself, that's all I really care about. I Guys don't really care too much as to, oh, she needs to have a good job, because hey, if she's a great person, that kind of all is all that matters. And that can come back to who leads or who pursues. So yeah. uh, so the downsides of who leads can be, of course, financial. If you're asking, like for me, if I ask somebody out on a date, like legitimately, I will make sure to use, hey, I'd like to take you on a date. I'll say these things, but then I'm obligating myself to, like, okay, well, I'm paying. And that's, first off, ladies, that's really cool when you are offering and serious about paying for your half. We're actually going to also do an episode on halves and that aspect of a relationship, but actually we can talk about aspects of that now, because that kind of comes into who's leading. Some people, so I dated someone who was kind of religious, but in that saying it kind of way. But if you ask them some questions or talk about things, it's like, you're not really religious. Stop faking. And they were big on, no, the guy needs to do this, the guy needs to do this, and like, no, he should pay. I was like, okay, cool. We had this conversation, and I was like, so you want him to pay for the whole apartment? Because like, okay, cool. You live on your own. Yeah. Well, because it's my money. And and it's just like, that's not the thought process of someone who's, like she said, oh, she's trying to get married, she's trying to have kids. That's not the thought process of someone who's legitimately trying to get money, trying to get married, trying to keep their money. Yes, if that's all you care about, yeah, you should be trying to do your best to save, and do all that other stuff and make money. But like, if your goal is to be married, what does that actually entail? What does that look like? Some people, and this can be a regional thing too, depending on where you're at in the country. Again, a lot of Southern people, that is, guy pays for everything. Oh, I pay. Oh, we got married, or we're dating. I'm paying for the apartment. I'm paying for this, and it's just like, so for me, that's where I definitely differ from, because back in the day when a woman had no money, or when a woman couldn't vote, or when she was highly discouraged or not allowed to go out on her own, I completely understand this. You're paying. I'm not taking a dependent. I had dated someone who, she had a beautiful apartment in downtown, and it was lovely with high ceilings. It was great in a prime area that she was spending all of her money on. So she wanted me to come through downtown, crowded downtown, to pick her up so we can go on a date. But then when we actually found out, it was just like, yeah, because she spent most of her money on the place. So like, that to me, besides that's poor leadership and poor life planning, it's just like, I'm not trying to that's not the time dependent I want. Like, first, if I'm going to have kids, yes, I'm paying for the kids and all this other stuff. But like, if you're actually trying to merge lives and put things together, yeah, there's a reason why 50-50 is a bigger thing and become more of a thing now. Is just because you're just saving your money for you. Because cool, if you say that up front, and that's fine. But then if a guy's just like, that may impact the quality of your dates. Like because Hey, do I want to go to the Brazilian steakhouse? Yeah, I love it there. Am I going to necessarily do that as many times if it's just like, yeah, well, besides this, and then you get six things of the special Brazilian drink that they make and you whatever, and just like, yeah, again, and socially, I know that there's some cultures that even having this conversation will be too much for some of the women, too much for some of the men who are just like, no, no, you're just being a cheapo. And if you've been around a Chaldean, they love to say, oh, the ones I know love to say cheapo, or there's different words for that in different cultures. And just like, because they're so used to the guy has to pay. And that's fine. You just need to know what you're getting into and being willing to accept it. Like for me, I don't want a dependent. I want a partner. So what a partner is, yeah, you may have to be okay with spending your money. First off, for the person who had their own apartment and didn't want to pay if things progressed, and just like, so you're just saving your money. Like, so if you're alone, you're going to pay and have that obligation, but like you just want to be a burden to your partner. Like that's one of these things is, yeah, leading. Well, as guys, we will take it, we will handle it. Just understand, you don't really want to be a burden on your partner, and it's very easy to burden someone or to just take the burden when you're in leadership role. So that's just one of those things you have to consider and talk about. I just bring all these things up just because these are the things that plague relationships, and regardless of what type of relationship you want. Again, if you want a one night stand or if you're looking for marriage, the same rules, the same general concept and principles apply. It's just, what are you doing with it? Hey, if you're leading and it's just for a night, cool. As long as the other person knows and is down, you're not going to have any problems. For me, I have no problem. I'm a natural leader. So one of the things is with that is I don't like being led into certain conversations where it's like, oh, this is forced, or this is just like some nonsense. So I've had people who want to make it as like, make conversations to be the, hey, you need to entertain me. And for me, if I catch that vibe, I'm going to just be like, oh, nope, and just whatever. And so like, I exude that energy of like, hey, this is who I am. And I've grown comfortable with like, hey, that's fine. I'm not trying to win over everyone. I'm not looking for the person who's just like, entertain me. Tell me this, tell me that. Do this, do that. Plan this. Like, that's not me. More power to the guy who can deal with that. But like, I want someone who's actually trying to work with me instead of trying to treat me like an employee. Back in the day, a lot of women used to lead from behind. Like, again, regardless of the rules and social climates and stuff, for black families, I can say for the ones I know from the West Coast and even from the South, where mom, grandma, or great grandma was in charge of the household. So like, yeah, dad or grandpa made certain rules, got the big piece of chicken, had certain things go for them that was just like, hey, this was out of respect. But then the decision when it comes to money, the decision on where we're living, all the important decisions that you kind of think about came back to mom. So these are the things, and she wouldn't front her husband off or disrespect him in that kind of capacity in public. But then behind closed doors, you know what was up. For me, like, I knew who the purchasing power was in my household growing up. Hey, I want for my birthday, I used to trade birthdays and Christmases to try to get the gifts I wanted. So when I wanted to go to Disneyland, all right, cool. So that means Christmas and my birthday, I'll use that to go to Disneyland. And so they said like, hey, so you know that mean, my mom would said, so you know that means like almost like no gifts for Christmas, right? And I said, yep. Guess what? Got like 2 gifts for Christmas, went to Disneyland for my birthday. I knew who to ask for certain things. And I knew that, especially for the big decisions, let me go to my mom. She's the deciding factor. Sometimes I learned that through asking my dad. And my dad would say, ask your mom. Okay, cool. She's the deciding factor for that. So that was then. And I know just historically, for at least for the family, I like my extended family, that's kind of how that was. So you can lead from different angles. You can be in front and leading. You can lead from the back and like, hey, I'm going to support this person and I'm going to encourage them and pretty much coach them and do all the things you have to. But you kind of should decide what you want to deal with. Ladies, I know that you don't necessarily want to lead, especially if you have a job where you are in leadership and you are kicking butt and taking names every day. A lot of women do not want to come home and then be the leader of everything. Not every woman, again, but just a lot of the ones I've dated, the more kick-ass they do at work, the less they want to do when it comes to a relationship. They want to just like be in their soft life. And that's fine. That's understandable. So you just have to understand that like, yeah, I don't want to do this, because that's where the problems come from is guys, you think you want to lead, but then you get put in charge of leadership and then you don't want to lead. You don't want to make the plans. You don't want to make the reservations. You don't want to make decisions. Cool. Maybe you didn't want to lead and maybe you're just getting hit with the responsibility. Women, maybe you want to lead because some women do want to lead. And then they just was like, I'm not respecting this guy's like offer. So like back to the dating, I've heard people say that, well, I want to know where we're going to go because I don't want you taking me to McDonald's or something. And I haven't heard that in a while, but guess what? If someone's going to take you to McDonald's as a date, let them make that as an offer so you can say no and you have established, I know this guy's leadership style versus cutting him off and just well, it may have happened like this, or because of my ex, that was when we were technically 19 or 20, he did some dumb stuff like that. Yeah, don't fall for that. All right. So who should lead? Whoever you guys want to lead. Have that conversation. You're grown. Be grown. Some people don't want to take that responsibility to communicate, to be the leader, or if you don't want to lead, say that. All right. So I want to just thank you guys for sticking with me this episode. Please, if you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, tell me your thoughts in the comments on like, do you want to lead? Do you like when a guy leads? Do you like when a woman leads? How do you decide this for your relationships? Please, you guys take care. I'll be talking with you soon.